On October 5, 2025, the world awoke to a crisis that would redefine the meaning of security in the modern era. Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport, a critical hub for global commerce and U.S. military power, was suddenly and completely shut down. This time, it wasn't a blizzard or an earthquake that brought operations to a halt, but a devastating cyber attack, invisible and unstoppable. The shockwaves were immediate and far-reaching, rippling from Washington to Tokyo and beyond. The front lines of conflict had shifted overnight, from distant battlefields to the digital networks that quietly power our infrastructure and daily lives. Anchorage isn't just another airport lost in the vastness of Alaska. Its unique location makes it a linchpin for logistics and military readiness, connecting 90% of the industrialized northern hemisphere within 10 hours, a vital artery for the world's supply chains and defense. The shutdown brought billions of dollars in cargo to a standstill and grounded military aircraft, exposing vulnerabilities in the systems we depend on every single day, often without a second thought. This was more than an airport closure. It was a declaration that the very nature of conflict had changed. The attack targeted everything: air traffic control, fueling, baggage handling, and every digital process that keeps a modern airport running. With just a few lines of malicious code, a global superpower was brought to its knees, its vulnerabilities laid bare for all to see. The world watched in disbelief as the U.S. scrambled to respond, both on the frozen tarmac and in the invisible battlegrounds of cyberspace. But this story isn't just about one airport in Alaska. It's about the fragility of our modern, interconnected world. A world where a single point of failure can have global consequences. In the coming moments, we'll break down what happened, why Anchorage matters so much, and what this means for our economy, our security, and the routines of our daily lives. Experts from around the world will help us understand the unprecedented nature of this event and what it signals for the future. The Anchorage shutdown is a wake-up call, a defining moment that revealed just how exposed and unprepared we truly are in the face of new threats. The silence in Alaska echoed across the globe, forcing governments, businesses, and citizens everywhere to reckon with the vulnerabilities of our digital age. This isn't just news, it's a warning, a signal flare for every nation and every individual. The story of Anchorage is a lesson for every citizen, a reminder that no one is immune to the ripple effects of a connected world. Our infrastructure is more fragile than we think, and the systems we trust can be compromised in an instant. And the next attack could be even bigger, more disruptive, and closer to home than we ever imagined. To truly grasp the impact of the shutdown, you have to look beyond the empty terminals and closed gates. Anchorage International isn't just another airport, it plays a unique and critical role in the world's transportation network. Strategically located between North America and Asia, it serves as the world's premier refueling stop for trans-Pacific cargo flights, making it a vital crossroads for global trade. Back during the Cold War, Anchorage was a lifeline for flights that needed to avoid Soviet airspace, connecting continents when politics divided them. Today, it's evolved into one of the world's top cargo hubs, with giants like FedEx and UPS relying on its runways to keep goods moving around the globe, day and night. But Anchorage is more than just a commercial gateway. It shares its runways with Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, home to F-22 fighter jets and advanced surveillance aircraft, America's eyes and ears in the Arctic region. An attack here isn't just about disrupting logistics, it's a direct threat to U.S. military readiness and national defense, putting critical operations at risk. Anchorage stands as a cornerstone of both the global supply chain and America's security infrastructure, connecting continents and safeguarding interests. Its smooth operation powers a significant portion of the world's economy, fueling industries, delivering essentials, and supporting millions of jobs, often without anyone realizing it. The attackers didn't choose Anchorage for its fame or size, but for its function, knowing that disrupting it would send shockwaves worldwide. Shutting it down meant halting the flow of goods, grounding planes, and leaving supply chains in chaos. The consequences rippled far beyond Alaska's borders, affecting businesses, governments, and everyday lives across the globe. The attack began quietly at 3:17 a.m., while most of the city was still asleep and the airport was shrouded in darkness. No one suspected that a normal morning would soon turn into chaos. Air traffic controllers were the first to notice something was wrong. Flight data on their screens began to flicker and disappear, and then, without warning, the radar went completely dark, leaving them blind to the skies. Suddenly, Controllers lost their digital eyes on dozens of planes in the air. Confusion and anxiety spread as they realized they could no longer track aircraft positions or communicate effectively. On the ground, the situation deteriorated rapidly. Fueling and baggage systems crashed, airport kiosks went dark, and conveyor belts ground to a halt, stranding passengers and crew alike. By 4 a.m., with mounting uncertainty, officials declared a full ground stop, halting all departures and arrivals to prevent disaster. The FAA responded by diverting all flights away from Anchorage, sending planes to alternate airports as a precaution. Anchorage, the world's fifth busiest cargo airport, was paralyzed. Cargo planes sat idle on the tarmac, disrupting global supply chains. The attack was multi-pronged, targeting air traffic, ground operations, the airport's power grid, and even backup generators, which were quickly compromised as well. Airport Director John Smith called it a sophisticated and malicious cyber event, warning that the full extent of the damage was still unknown. FBI and CISA teams arrived at sunrise, racing against the clock to trace the source of the intrusion and restore critical systems before more damage could be done. The malware was deeply embedded in the airport's networks, creating hidden backdoors and logic bombs designed to trigger further chaos if tampered with. Every attempt at recovery only seemed to trigger new failures. Engineers grew frustrated as systems crashed again and again, making progress nearly impossible. The message from the attackers was chilling. "We are in control." It was a stark reminder that this was no ordinary outage. The airport's digital infrastructure was under siege, with warning lights flashing and alarms blaring throughout the facility. Engineers and forensics teams worked around the clock, analyzing every line of code, but the systems kept failing, and the threat persisted. The world watched in disbelief as Anchorage remained frozen in place, its runways empty and its future uncertain. The day had just begun, but the crisis was far from over. People across the globe tuned in, anxious for updates. The attack's sophistication stunned even seasoned experts, who realized they were witnessing a new era of cyber warfare. The US now faced a new kind of battlefield, one with no clear front lines where the enemy could strike from anywhere at any time. As dawn broke, the paralysis was clear. Dozens of cargo jets sat idle, billions in goods stranded. Every grounded hour meant millions lost and global supply chains disrupted. Inside, thousands of travelers were stranded families, business people, tourists, all desperate for answers. Airline staff resorted to pen and paper, lines snaked through the terminal, local hotels overflowed, the airport became a makeshift shelter. Alaska's governor declared a state of emergency, mobilizing the National Guard. Federal agencies set up a command post, unsure if a physical threat would follow. The airport was locked down, military helicopters patrolling the skies. For passengers, it was a question of when they'd get home. For logistics companies, how to reroute global networks. For security officials, the urgent question, who did this, and what's next? The uncertainty was as chilling as the Alaskan air. Anchorage's shutdown was a shock to the global economy. Auto plants in the Midwest neared shutdown, waiting for parts stuck in Alaska. Tech and retail giants faced severed supply chains just before the holiday season. Shipping costs soared as companies scrambled for alternate routes. Alaska's seafood industry and perishable goods were devastated, tons of food and medicine at risk of spoiling. Wall Street reacted with volatility, logistics stocks tumbled. The event exposed how a single point of failure can ripple across the world. Anchorage's hidden importance was now painfully clear. The Anchorage attack became a national security crisis overnight. The White House convened emergency meetings. Intelligence agencies raced to identify the culprit. Early evidence pointed to a sophisticated state actor. Lawmakers called it a digital Pearl Harbor, demanding action. The attack forced a reckoning. Cybersecurity was now a pillar of national defense. Urgent calls for infrastructure investment and tougher regulations followed. The era of treating cybersecurity as an afterthought was over. Beyond economics and politics, the shutdown hit people hardest. For Alaskans, the airport is a lifeline. Mail, medicine, and medevac flights all halted. Stranded travelers slept on terminal floors, missing crucial events and medications. Volunteers and the Red Cross stepped in, but stress and uncertainty took a toll. The attack shattered public confidence in basic services. First responders and airport staff worked tirelessly, heroes in a crisis with no playbook. The psychological impact rippled nationwide. If Anchorage could fall, what was safe? The human cost was real, immediate, and lasting. Experts say Anchorage was a proof of concept, a warning shot in a new era of cyber conflict. Dr. Evelyn Reed, cybersecurity analyst, called it a game changer. The attackers were likely inside the network for months, mapping systems and planting code. Their goal wasn't ransom, it was paralysis and chaos. Intelligence sources point to state-sponsored groups testing U.S. red lines in the Arctic. Anchorage was a calculated move, challenging the U.S. below the threshold of war. The attack exposed the brittleness of our hyper-efficient, interconnected world. Dr. Reed warns, we built for efficiency, not resilience. The Anchorage attack is the first major earthquake. We must rebuild with security and resilience at the core. If we don't, the next attack could be far worse. The lesson: our digital age demands a new kind of defense. As Anchorage recovers, the question is, what now? The shutdown was a brutal stress test, and we failed. We need a national commitment to harden critical infrastructure with real investment and enforceable standards. Corporations must treat cybersecurity as essential, not optional. Internationally, the U.S. must set clear red lines and consequences for cyber attacks. The digital Wild West must end. Global norms are needed. Every community must become more digitally literate and demand transparency from companies and leaders. The Anchorage shutdown is a warning. Our strengths are also our vulnerabilities. Let's act now, before the next crisis hits. Our future security depends on it.